The Devagowda government was always going to be a short-lived government. I think, for want of anyone else, he offered the finance ministry to me. There were very few people in his party, very few in each constituent. For example, I then belonged to the Tamil Manila Congress, headed by Mr. Moopanar, and we had only 20 MPs. A few of us had to carry the burden of government. And I was thrown into the finance ministry. I mean, I wasn't afraid. I was mentally prepared for that. And there was no crisis in 1996. The budget speech is always a matter between the finance minister and the prime minister, with only maybe one person from the PMO present. In this case, it was Mr. Chandra, the then Principal Secretary to Mr. Devagowda. He's from Karnataka Kada. A very fine gentleman, a very wise man. So, when I started reading the budget speech to the Prime Minister, Mr. Devagowda was not really interested in all these aspects. He had a few pet ideas about agriculture, about unorganized workers. And he said, as long as all this is taken care of, you decide what you want to do. So I had nobody, in a sense, to report to. I was pretty autonomous. And we presented that budget where we did a lot of changes in the capital market. By that time, even in Mr. Narasimha Rao's government, the capital market structure had been put in place with SEBI there. And therefore, the first budget it contained many important changes, but it didn't make a big splash because they were all technical matters. Anyway, it was a budget only for about 8 or 9 months. The first budget of any government that comes in the month of June or July is never considered a full budget because you have already one quarter behind you. There's an interim budget presented by the previous finance minister. So it is a workman-like budget, and you have to present it within a very short span of time. Within a couple of weeks you have to get it ready. But it passed without incident, and that gave me confidence. I had always targeted the 1997 budget as a possible watershed. And I'd started working on that well in advance, even by the month of September or October. And I said, listen, let's list all the things that we would like to do. Whether we can do it or not is a different matter. Let's list all those things and try to pack the budget speech with as many as possible. That's how the 1997 budget was drafted, because it made radical changes in taxation, and people are immediately impacted by tax changes. There were other things too. Funny thing happened, a few days before the budget day, I lost my voice. I don't know how it happened. So we rushed to an ENT. He said, there's nothing I can do, just don't speak for 4 days. I said, the budget speech has to be read in 5 or 6 days. He said, just don't speak for 4 days. So the last 4 or 5 days before the budget day, all the numbers were being finalized and the speech was being corrected. I wrote my budget speeches. There was no ghostwriter. First draft to the final draft was written by me on a computer. So it is all sign language. Chits, little slips of paper, sign language, no word uttered at all. Mercifully, I regained my voice substantially on budget day. You will find that if you listen to that budget speech, the speech is delivered in a very soft voice. That was not deliberate. That was inevitable. I couldn't afford to lose my voice when I was reading the speech. But the moment I had read the speech and the first feedback started coming, I knew that this would be a watershed budget. We had slashed the tax rates, and then we had announced the agreement between government and the RBI to put an end to ad hoc treasury bills. An automatic monetization of the fiscal deficit will be signed. I think the most epochal event of 1997 was the agreement between government and RBI ending ad hoc treasury bills. The fiscal deficit could no longer be automatically monetized. That means government had to borrow at market rate. That meant government had to be worried about the fiscal deficit. So it's only in 1997 the whole consciousness about fiscal deficit hit the people of India. Well, it was again an accident, but it passed without incident. After the budget was presented, there was an internal crisis within the UF. Mr. Devagowda had to step down and make way for a new Prime Minister. I don't know whether it's before or after. I think it's after. At that time, there was a disagreement between the TMC and the Congress, and Mr. Moopanar decided to stay away from the government. So most people don't recall this. For about 11 or 12 days, I was not finance minister after the budget was presented. Mr. Gujral kept the portfolio to himself. After he was sworn in, the TMC members did not join the government. He did not have a finance minister. I got a call one morning saying, Prime Minister's 5 minutes away from your house, are you at home? I said, Prime Minister should not come here. Let me come and meet the Prime Minister. They said, no, he's already on his way and he will be there in a minute or two. So Prime Minister drove into 30 Aurangzeb Road where I was living. And I was completely flabbergasted. I said, sir, I knew Mr. Gujral very well, very fine gentleman. He said, listen, why are you guys not joining the government? I said, listen, Mr. Moopanar is upset for some reason, but I think he will come around. I can't defy my leader and join the government. We are a party, and all of us have to act together. He said a proverb in Hindi. He said, Mucha wala and dadi wala. There's a proverb in Hindi. If the Mucha wala has committed some error, why are you punishing the dadi wala? Something to that effect. He said, I have not done anything wrong. I said, not sir, you have not done anything wrong. But I think it will take a few days to sort out the problem. In the meanwhile, the debate on the budget had started in Parliament. I was still occupying my first row seat, but I was speaking as a member, not as the finance minister. It's a funny situation. There was nobody on the government side to defend the budget and explain the budget. So there was a free-for-all debate. I spoke as a member, but naturally, I had to speak as the ex-finance minister who had presented the budget. I think Ms. Sushma Swaraj took a few light-hearted digs at me. And I ended my speech by saying, I have only 3 demands. I can't recall the first and second. See, I'm pretending I'm speaking as a member. I was speaking as a member. I have 3 demands. I said, demand 1, demand 2, and demand 3. I said, pass the Chidambaram budget. With that, the debate ended. They passed it. Because it was a very odd situation. And I think they all passed it unanimously. That's how the budget got passed. It was an accident, but it also brought us luck.